Mhm. Hey, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Narattamam Chava Devim Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jayamudirayat Ashtapreshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 17, verse 13. Yatra deva pataya svai svai ganana yakaye vihita maharhanaha samatru kusumastabhakam alakishalaya shriyanam yamana vittapa latavitapibhir bhamana ruchirakanana shramayatana varsha iridronishu tatachamala jala shayeshu vikacha vividhanava vanarudhamudamuditarajahamsa jala kukutakaradava sharasa chakravakadibhir madhukara nikara kritibhir uphaku jiteshutala kridatibhir vichitra vinodai sulalit asura sundarinam kama kalila vilasahasa lilavalokara lilavalokhakrishta manudrishtayaha svairam viharanti. Or to our translation, Yatraha, in those 8 tracts of land, Deva Patayaha, the lords of the demigods, such as Lord Indra, Svai Svai, by their own respective, Gananayakai, leaders of the servants, Vihita, furnished with, Maha valuable gifts such as sandalwood pulp and garlands, Sarvaritu, in all seasons, Kusumas, tabaka, of bunches of flowers, Kala, of fruits, Kishalaya, Shriya, by the opulences of shoots, Anam Yamanam, being bent down, Vitapa, whose branches, Lata, and creepers, Vitapi, by many trees, Vasumbhamana, been fully decorated, Ruchira, beautiful, Kanana, gardens, Ashrama Ayatana, and many hermitages, Varshagiri Dharonishu, the valleys between the mountains the valleys between the mountains designating the borders of the tracts of land. Kata as well as Cha also, Amajala Ashyeshu, in lakes with clear water. Vikacha, just fructified, Vividha, varieties, Navavanaruha Amuda, by the fragrance of the lotus flowers, Mudita, and thust. Rajahamsa, great swans, Jala Kukuta, waterfall, Karandava, aquatic birds called Karandavas, Sharasa, cranes, Chakravaka Adivi, by birds known as Chakravakas, and so on. Madhukara Nikata Akriti Bhihi, by the bumblebees, Kujitashu, which were made to resound, Jalakrida Adibihi, such as water sports, Vichitra, various, Vinodai, by pastimes, Sulalita, attractive, Sura Sundarinam, of the woman of the demigods, Kama, from lust, Kalila, born, Vilasa, pastimes, Hasa, smiling, Lila Avaloka, by playful glances, Akrishtamana, whose minds are attracted, Drishtayaha, and whose vision is attracted, Svairam very freely, Viharanti engaged in sportive enjoyment. Translation. In each of those tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits, according to the season, and they're beautifully decorated hermitages as well. Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous water filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens, and cranes becoming greatly excited by the fragrance of the lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods, always attended by their respective servants. They enjoy life in gardens alongside the lakes. In this pleasant situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands by their servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly varshas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex. Purport. Here's a description of the lower heavenly planets. The inhabitants of those planets enjoy life in a pleasant atmosphere of clear lakes filled with newly grown lotus flowers and gardens filled with fruits, flowers, various kinds of birds, and humming bees. In that atmosphere, they enjoy life with their very beautiful wives and are always sexually stimulated, who are always sexually stimulated. Nonetheless, they are all devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as will be explained in the subsequent verses. The inhabitants of this earth also desire such heavenly enjoyment. But when they somehow or other achieve imitation pleasures, like sex and intoxication, they completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. In the heavenly planets, however, although the residents enjoy superior sense gratification, they never forget their positions as eternal servants of the Supreme Being. The purport. In each of these tracts of land, there are many gardens filled with flowers and fruits according to the season, and there are beautifully decorated hermitages as well. Between the great mountains demarcating the borders of those lands lie enormous lakes of clear water, filled with newly grown lotus flowers. Aquatic birds such as swans, ducks, water chickens, and cranes become greatly excited by the fragrance of lotus flowers, and the charming sound of bumblebees fills the air. The inhabitants of those lands are important leaders among the demigods, always attended by their respective servants. They enjoy life in gardens alongside the lakes. In this pleasant situation, the wives of the demigods smile playfully at their husbands and look upon them with lusty desires. All the demigods and their wives are constantly supplied with sandalwood pulp and flower garlands by their respective servants. In this way, all the residents of the 8 heavenly varshas enjoy, attracted by the activities of the opposite sex. Om Jnana Timirandasya Karanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupam Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishvanusut Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vajja Kalpatarvishya Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Niveshe Shashvinavadi Pashatatya Deshatharine Krishna Prasthaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So continue reading the chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam describing various planetary systems. I know in a section where the lower heavenly planets are described. It's a beautiful place, as we can read from these verses. And as we have heard in previous classes also, that there are three sections in material world: heavenly, earthly, and lower planetary systems, or hellish planetary systems, or let's say lower, medium, lower, and higher. And then within those grades, there's like 14 planetary systems. And so we just get into the area of Svargaloka where King Indra, the heavenly king Indra, resides. And it says here that many of the leaders, actually, of the demigods, among the demigods, are inhabiting those lands. So we know that there are 33 million demigods, and I heard in one class that it says that each of them has 10 servants. So that we can add a zero to that, and it's like 330 million demigods who are basically ruling those devatas are ruling this universe, really. They're in charge. They're serving the Lord by taking care of the needs of this universe and respective forces like wind, rain, oceans, and sun, and so forth. So in this way, they don't really forget the Lord, because not only they worship, as we have heard in this particular section in Ilavrita Varsha, they worship Sankarshan. So each tract of land is deity, presiding deity, in a form of archa, which will be described in the next verse, I think. Very beautiful verse and purport. So they don't really forget the Lord, even though they are constantly exposed to sense gratification and the facilities that such heavenly kingdom provides. A devotee of the Lord never forgets the Lord. That's the principle of a devotee. Whether he has a facilities or no facilities, he remembers him under the simple tree, like Goswamis of Vrindavan, or like our Srila Prabhupada. He was sometimes living in a very opulent, lush residences, almost like palaces sometimes. And he never forgot Krishna in any circumstances, whether facilities were opulent or very simple. That's the criteria. Always remember Krishna, never forget him, as Rupa Goswami explains. And but the human beings, the ordinary human beings, although we are striving for such similar enjoyments, the moment we get them, it says here that we completely forget the service of the Supreme Lord. So the intoxication or the any type of lusty enjoyments that we get, we usually forget the Lord. From simple enjoyments like, I don't know, watching a movie, to more sophisticated, the maitunya, the one that is a sexual indulgence. We can see also that it doesn't matter which planet, the sex desire or the attraction to the opposite sex is something that binds us here or attracts us here as conditioned souls. And the demigods are much higher than us. We should not criticize them, even though we hear a lot of stories when King Indra gets into different difficulties, usually connected with the sexual desire. Nonetheless, he's a very great personality, and he's a devotee of the Lord. We hear his prayers, usually apologetic prayers to the Lord when he, messes up a little bit. But we should also understand that, the the luxurious lifestyle that he's experiencing and constantly exposed to, both power and wealth and opulences, is extremely incomparable to anything on this planet. It's 10,000 more times beautiful in all respects, right? We, in Kali Yuga especially, it's very hard to understand, because even though here is described, clear lakes and different birds in those clear lakes. Even we live here in Gitanagari, and we're exposed to nature every day, and those beautiful birds, and the ones that are chirping in the forest, and the ones that are, there are ducks and cranes also here. Uh, but even the water is not so clean, So we get affected in Kali Yuga by industry and all those contaminants. We don't see clear lakes much, in New Zealand maybe. In some parts of the world, it's reserves, yes, we can find still clear lakes. You really have to drive there to get there. So Srila Prabhupada said there's always, in this material world, there's a lot of suffering. There's no really heavenly enjoyments on the earth. And then he said, well, maybe in Hawaii, the weather is always good. There's droplets of waters in the air, and the temperature is always nice, and beautiful sights are there. But even there, we can see there's some forest fires or something that can happen, disturb that enjoyments that are available. So it's not the people when they read in this. Usually, they see this in the movie, but they don't really experience it themselves. Like there are areas in this world where there's so much suffering and the ecology is so bad. There's no even air, fresh air. What to speak of some clear lakes? There's nothing to breathe with. The air is polluted. The water is polluted. Uh, you cannot see the birds around or any life much, apart from maybe a few sparrows or a few doves here and there in the city. So people have this messed up concepts of life. What's the beauty of life? And people are moving from the villages where this at least is to some degree available, to the cities where there's constant noise and nothing is available. Um, and we can see that when you exposed to such, waterfalls, beautiful gardens, this kind of nature, then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm kusuma akaraha, I'm a blooming spring, a flower blooming spring of a Santa, beautiful season. And it seems in demigods area, this is always happening, there's flowers blooming and creating this fragrance, creates certain sensation that, they just want to enjoy. And the body is full of power and strength to do that. Also, they don't suffer any karmic reactions for that. Still, even in this verse, it says that wives of the demigods. So there's also husbands and wives, and that sexual attraction or interaction is usually between a husband and wife, even in a demigod's realm. And they don't really suffer the consequences of enjoying, even overindulging in those enjoyments. There's no hangover after drinking Varuna beverages, and there's no, there's no children, there's no procreation, as we heard from the previous verse. The higher you go, the less of this procreation happens, as there's no children, it's just basically enjoyment. So they only burn in their good karma there. Once it's burned out, they have to come back, usually to the earthly planes. So the most important planets on this, in this track, in all of those tracts of land in material world, are actually two planets: the Brahmaloka and the Earth. And the reason the Earth and Brahmaloka are most important is because from these two planets you actually get promoted to the spiritual world. Anything in between is either for suffering or for enjoying, and then going either upwards to Brahmaloka so you can actually continue to a spiritual world. So there are heavenly planets like that also, above Svargaloka, or you just enjoy the heavenly planets, come back to the earth, or you suffer in the hellish planet and come back to the earth. So the earth is the place where you can actually get to spiritual world in one lifetime, actually. which is very, very impressive. So we read this, beautiful description, and we have to understand, we have to acknowledge this beauty. It's Lord's beauty. We have to remember everything that's connected to Krishna, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, everything that's connected to Krishna uh, is purifying our consciousness. So when we're reading even this description of heavenly planets and the servants, yes, maybe not pure devotees yet, but still devotees of the Lord, demigods, we have to respect them. Don't have to worship them, but we definitely have to respect them. And we're dependent on them also, on their mercy in one sense. Ultimately, we're dependent on Krishna's mercy, but they are the servants who are fulfilling his desire, his will, after he's satisfied with us. So like this. And so we have to acknowledge and respect the demigods. So what's my track of thought? What I was saying before I spoke about respect to the demigods. Anyway, the earthly planet. So the sages sometimes were discussing what yuga is the best. Kali Yuga, Treta. They were discussing this in the Treta, Satya, and Dwapara Yuga. But then Srila Vyasadeva said that Kali Yuga is the best. They were like, what? Why Kali Yuga is the best? Because in Kali Yuga, the simple Yuga Dharma is chanting the holy name, and only in one lifetime you can achieve the perfection, go back to Godhead. So, and because the suffering really is a little more than happiness, in this way, you remain sober, you remain not distracted, and in fact, because of suffering, you are more sincere in chanting the holy name. And in fact, demigods are envious of human beings in Kali Yuga. It's so quickly, just in that one little lifetime, which for them is just like, like a flash, so quick. For such demigods from Svargaloka, our 6 months is there, 1 hour or something, 1 day. So, it's very short, brief lifetime in which we can go back to Godhead. And so demigods are envious of that because, it's such a wonderful, lucrative opportunity, especially when Lord Chaitanya comes, that his special mercy, he's liberating us all through this process. So we may be envious of demigods, thinking, oh, they're enjoying so much and it's so beautiful. There's no air pollution, clear lakes, sex enjoyment, and all sort of things available. And no karmic reaction for that. It's so nice. Shall I, get some pious credit to go there? But actually, it's the opposite. The demigods want to come to the earth to just get the business done, finish with the business in the earthly in a material world, which eventually for them it finishes at some point after 10,000 years or so. It evaporates, the credit evaporates. They have to come back anyway. But in these 10,000 years, they may miss the opportunity, which is the golden opportunity of golden avatar, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's only for 10,000 years available in its juicy state, condensed state, where you can be devotees pretty much everywhere and be, exposed to this unique opportunity to finish with this material suffering, really. Yes. And then we can see also that we may think, okay, well, we can see sex enjoyment is here, sex enjoyment is there, but actually the higher you go to Maharloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, those planets are actually for the celibates. So usually brahmacharis, they go to those higher planetary systems where they experience even higher happiness without any sex indulgence, really. And they don't get disturbed or distracted by the beautiful ladies of heaven, heavenly girls, and they experience high happiness. And so the higher you go, the happiness is actually increasing and there's no need in sex indulgence. And eventually, in the spiritual world, it's a complete bliss of service to Supreme Personality of Godhead, where such enjoyments you don't even think of because you experience it at higher taste. So there's always this thing, higher taste and lower taste. If you don't choose the higher taste, you'll have to experience lower taste. There's no other options. But the problem is on the earthly planets, if you experience lower taste, you also experience forgetfulness because you get in very quickly absorbed in those in low indulgences, and they intoxicate your mind. Your mind gets, it's always disturbed, but it gets also polluted. Those higher vibrations you'll not be able to absorb or even extract taste from if you are constantly engaged in such activities. Hence why we have those 4 regulative principles to increase our chances to experience the higher taste of eventually first Namambhas and eventually Shuddhanam, and also hearing the pastimes of the Lord and having the taste and attraction to hear them more and more. So that's that's very important. What else is there in the purport? Yes. So as I said, it's here that the end of this purport, that the demigods, even though they enjoy a superior sense gratification, they never forget their positions as eternal servants of Supreme Being. They serve the Lord. They're actually on duty. If you're on duty, it's very hard to really forget that you are on duty. If you work in a certain area, you remember that you're working for such and such boss. You remember your boss even if he's not there. It takes, for the most simple examples, I don't know, as a student I was working in a coffee store, and even though my manager was away, I knew Stefan is there. I know I'm doing it for him. He is my employer, I'm his employee. I'm performing my duties accordingly so I can get the wages or the salary. And, anytime he can come in, because he's a boss, he's an owner, he can come in anytime. It's not obliged to be there. And so I'm always alert to do the duties properly. So when he comes, he's pleased and like this. So there's always that relationship of servant and the masters, even in higher planetary systems. We can see the sandalwood pulp and garlands are offered by the servants to the leaders, demigod leaders. And, it's so difficult to get even flowers these days, flowers that are fragrant. Sandalwood pulp, we think we are putting the right sandalwood pulp on our deities, but it may not be so. There's so much cheating going on in Kali Yuga, and it's actually so hard to get the real sandalwood pulp. And to actually offer it even to the deities, or to speak on a daily basis to human beings and like that. It's rare. It only grows in a few places, and in many places restricted for export, and you really have to get the quota, or pay a lot of money and find the right source where you're not cheated, because sometimes they just mix it with something so it looks yellowish, but it's not really a real sandalwood, even though they sell it like this. So Kali Yuga, welcome. But it's at the same time, it's very, very beneficial age. There are stories how we can go back to Godhead, and those stories are uh, around us, really. Not even back then when Srila Prabhupada left the planet, going back to Godhead, but those stories are still happening by His mercy, and we hear those stories how devotees chanted the holy name at the end of their lives. How devotees chanting kirtan, how auspiciously devotees leave their bodies in the presence of devotees, leading, chanting kirtan or reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and that's if we really understand what luck, what Chintamani gem we have, then we can really get attracted and fixed and determined in our practice of bhakti. That inspiration and determination, of course, comes from those who experience this bliss. We see devotees been in movement for 40, 50 years, like Tarka Prabhu, and other devotees who are really stuck through the process. And Tarka Prabhu, as he himself says, he has no need to watch the films or do some nonsense activities. All he wants, and he does, is trying to increase his service, to Srimati Tulsi Devi, to the devotees, to the to Gita Nagari community, whether it's financial service or guidance or compiling books or sponsoring wonderful books like Jayadvaita Maharaj's book. It's coming out about how to properly chant kirtan and like that. So, and of course sharing the experience and guidance how to you know go through this journey, and at the end of life really be attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. Tarka Prabhu is every morning on Srimad Bhagavatam classes, and he never wants them to finish. That's the bliss, and when he chants, finally I heard him chanting after 4 years. So you can see a young boy dancing and chanting with so vigor and enthusiasm. It's amazing. The process works, you see living examples of that. And it's not just Tarka Prabhu, it's so many, so many devotees who are in a movement 30, 40, 50 years and getting actually more and more enthusiasm. And that's means, they are uh, over or almost over anartha-nivritti and having nishtha or ruchi or higher attachments to Krishna. So it's only speeding up uh, closer to the finish line. Like the runners, they run, and whatever the distance is, whether it's 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, marathon, at this last 100 meters of their run, they even run faster. How come? They ran just 40 Ks just now. How can you run faster at this last? You're supposed to be exhausted. No, but they see the finish line. They now finally see, and they give their very best at the end, even more. They're getting more enthusiastic. I've done it. I see it. It's just like it's called second breath. They catch the second breath and do impossible at the end. And whatever the runner is, whether he's a champion or just some ordinary runner, that just happens to every single runner if they run the competition. They just do a little extra at that very end. Because they know it's it, there's nothing else to lose. This body we're going to drop anyway. So whether it's functional, dysfunctional, that very last moment is extremely exciting for devotees because they see Krishna already coming their way. So they've surrendered more and more. In fact, I heard devotees saying that in those last days, or even sometimes last hours, devotees manage to drop so many material attachments. Of course, thanks to many devotees who support them on that journey, and of course it's Krishna's mercy and Prabhupada's mercy, but nonetheless, these last moments are quite significant. It's called the last exam, but we prepare for it. But the time it happens, and if devotee really was sincere, at least a little bit sincere through his journey and practice, he manages to burn a lot of karma at this very last moments, surrendering more and more. And if he has not attained the full perfection, then he attained a lot of realizations and perfections in order to continue the next life and make it really perfect. So there's no loss on this journey. Okay, if anyone has anything to add to this verse, have any question? Also, one more thing to maybe add that sometimes we may think when reading fifth canto specifically that this is like an advertisement of the heavenly planets to go to. No, it's actually don't forget, we're just in the middle of Srimad Bhagavatam, so we're going higher and higher, going above the earthly plane now to explore the God realms and like that. And it's actually, this knowledge is for us not to go there because we will get soon we'll be exposed to Shigaloka Vrindavan realm and the topmost pleasures that devotees experience there. And this advertisement that Krishna gives himself for all is incomprehensive, incomparable. And everything that we read before will just fade away, completely fade away as phantasmagoria, something that's like a mirage, you know. When Gautama Buddha was meditating under the tree, he was tested by Mara, which is traditionally Yamaraj, sending him different illusions of this material world, you know, heavenly girls and all that. Just by him being fixed on the Supreme, he very easily, not very easily, it was a great fight, is explained, those allurements, but by his determination and fixing his samadhi on the Supreme, he overcome all of those allurements and attained perfection. So we will be exposed, we will be tested, even by demigods maybe, sending us different obstacles on these. At least Maya does that. That's her service, main service. That she'll be distracting us with all sort of things from devotional service. We have to understand those extreme luxurious conditions sometimes are distractions to path of bhakti. You know, we do, but if we have the archavigara, we have the murti, whatever distraction we have, we come back and do the service, right? We do the artis, we do it. So we remember. But if we don't have those facilities that we do have today, you know, phones, computers, like that, where distractions come from, this advertisement, this posing, and you know, you live in a place where there's no advertisement finally, and still you get the advertisements from computers, and you just go logging into your email and there's advertisement bombarding you in the news or whatever. You go into YouTube spiritual channel, and then unless you have a Prime and you pay for it, the advertisements come up, and you know, they're trying to disturb you. And so facilities that not necessarily always provide us, we can use them, we can utilize them, it's very nice. But also we have to acknowledge it provides some distraction also, you know, from pure chanting, from absorption, from service. So those simple conditions are nice, you know, not so many disturbances are nice. In fact, not so much happiness is also nice. We think, no, I have to go to Hawaii, I have to go to Bahamas, I have to go to Caribicus, I have to go to Rarotonga, Cook Islands, wherever, you know, the spiritual kingdoms. But just understand, you know, there's also insects and like that. There's no descriptions of, you know, heavenly planets. Oh, there's spiders and insects and snakes and ticks and all sort of things, you know. So here you cannot really enjoy even the nature in a full extent. You know, you go to sit in the grass and you're always exposed to tick. Pennsylvania is #1 in ticks in the United States. I know there's always mosquitoes. There's always, okay, we don't have venomous snakes, but still they bite if, you know, if you tease them. So, you know, there's always some disturbances going on. Even in heavenly planets, you know, here the Gajendra story, you know, crocodile, Leela. So it's not like there's always something. So better focus on a place where there's Vaikuntha, no suffering whatsoever, and just service to the Lord in that rasa that you will eventually develop. So better start now. All right, now I finished.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you for a nice class. Always enjoy your classes. Hey, I'm thinking about these classes of individuals who elevate themselves to heavenly planets, or even one of the three heavenly situations amongst the earthly planets. There's even, hellish, heavenly situations in the lower planetary systems. But we hear these various descriptions of heavenly situations. Sounds very attractive. The Prachetas were they received a benediction from the Lord that they would be elevated to the heavenly planets for some lengthy period of time, and then they would go back home. And sometimes we might think that this sounds like a very good deal, but from the perspective of a pure devotee, it is actually, while on the one hand they are indifferent, they regard all these situations, whether heavenly or hellish, as the same. They would prefer to have Krishna's association and to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in the heavenly planets. Not a very attractive proposition, because with all of the opulence and enjoyment, they may even remember their status as a devotee. They may not forget Krishna, but they are still separate from Krishna. It's not the same as elevation, for example, to Krishna's own planet, or one of his many planets. So not so desirable for a devotee. We heard back when we were the Srila Prabhupada's purport to text 3 of this chapter, he made reference to Chaitanya Chandramrita, text 5, which says, for a devotee, the pleasure of merging into the existence of Brahman is considered hellish. Similarly, he considers promotion to heavenly planets just another kind of phantasmagoria. So, he regards all these things as insignificant and most of all temporary. You mentioned how, from the perspective of the demigods, the life of the humans on Bhartavarsha, it's just a momentary flash. Our lives are very short by comparison to the demigods. From the perspective of a pure devotee, even the situation of the demigods, where they may live for even hundreds of thousands of years, is still just a very short time and insignificant, frustratingly insignificant, and therefore undesirable. Their preference is an eternal situation without any interruption whatsoever. So as exalted as those posts may be, still regarded as frustrating and unpleasant, because you still have to undergo birth and death. That same verse from Chaitanya Chandramrita, the text 5 says, while, on the one hand, because wherever a devotee is, regardless of his situation, he is ecstatic in Krishna consciousness. Doesn't matter higher planetary system or even hellish planets, he doesn't care. So it says the whole material world appears joyful for a devotee, and even great personalities like Lord Brahma and Lord Indra are considered no better than insects. Such is the position of a devotee who has received but a small glance of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, for the devotees who actually have been blessed with a taste for pure devotional service, all these things become very insignificant and undesirable. In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 17th chapter, there is a verse Text 28 reads, devotees solely engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same, for such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila, chapter 9, text 270 reads, a person who is a devotee of Lord Narayan is not afraid of a hellish condition because he considers it the same as elevation to the heavenly planets or liberation. The devotees of Lord Narayan are accustomed to seeing all these things on the same level. More from Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, text 21, Krishna says that when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. That's the bottom line. All they achieve is repeated birth and death. So this is not really appealing to a pure devotee. In the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 12th chapter, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the words of Bodhananda Saraswati. He says, pure Vaishnava devotees of the Lord don't want to be separated from the Lord and consider the heavenly planets to be not just temporary, but hellish, because the great opulence and high level of enjoyment makes it too easy to forget Sri Krishna. So it becomes a distraction. On the whole, they remember Krishna, but still they are distracted by sense gratification, and they are, after all, engaged in sense gratification. Their devotional service is mixed. They're not engaged in pure devotional service. They're sometimes engaged in devotional service, sometimes engaged in sense gratification, and the sense gratification becomes a distraction from pure devotional service. So they're not on the platform of pure devotional service. That is a condition for a pure devotee that would be considered hellish, according to Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati had stated in this connection, Srila Prabhupada says that for a devotee, liberation is a hellish condition of life. As for sense gratification, which is available in the heavenly planets, the devotee considers it to be a will-o'-the-wisp, having no value in life. So phantasmagoria, again, very, very temporary, fleeting, and therefore without any significant value. So in verses like this, the word Naraka comes up again and again. Naraka means hell, and so the devotees actually regard all these situations as being hellish, to be separated from Krishna. The 4th canto, 20th chapter, we have this, says that devotees are anxious neither for the heavenly planets nor for merging into the existence of the Lord. According to devotees, Kaivalya, or merging into the existence of the Lord, is considered as good as hell. The word Naraka means hell. Similarly, anyone who exists in this material world. So it doesn't matter where you are, what your situation is within the scope of material nature. If you are situated anywhere within the scope of material nature, that's considered hell. It says here, the word Naraka means hell. Similarly, anyone who exists in this material world is called Naraka because this material existence itself is known as a hellish condition of life. So even the heavenly planets considered to be hell. We have, what else is there? Srila Prabhupada discusses this same subject in, there's that book, A Second Chance, which is really kind of abstracted from the story of Jamil. He says, the devotee does not care for elevation to the heavenly planets. Devotee does not care a fig for any planet in this material world because he knows that the benefit of entering into the heavenly kingdom is temporary. We may live for thousands of years on a higher planet and enjoy a very high standard of life, complete with beautiful wife, abundant wealth, and the finest wine, but there is no permanent benefit. For a devotee, such a life is hellish because he does not wish to live without Krishna. That is genuine spiritual realization. We simply care for Krishna and how Krishna will be happy. That is real happiness. So that's the platform of pure devotional service, that pure devotee is concerned only with Krishna's satisfaction, not interested in any amount of sense gratification, not interested in pleasing his own senses. For him, the greatest happiness, the greatest pleasure is giving giving pleasure to Krishna. That's his satisfaction. And so by doing that, then he's situated transcendentally. He's completely beyond the scope of material nature. The phantasmagoria, the hellish situations, the heavenly situations, all become completely insignificant. He's not associated with any of that. Is transcendental to all the modes of material nature and enjoys a different kind of happiness, completely different atmosphere, just ecstasy in devotional service, completely selfless, no, not a pinch of sense gratification. So that's what we are aspiring for, or supposed to be aspiring for. And but sometimes devotees are enticed by these descriptions of heavenly situations. We should not be. We should understand from the perspective of a pure devotee. We ourselves may not have that perspective, but we have the benefit of hearing from those who do have that perspective, and we want to try to imbibe that mentality, that consciousness, that vision. So by hearing from Srila Prabhupada, and he quotes other acharyas, we have the opportunity to get a sense for that type of vision, and try to direct ourselves towards that. We can aspire for that consciousness, and work towards that. Simply by the process of just hearing and chanting, we can cultivate a taste for pure devotional service relatively quickly and easily by the grace and mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So that's my thoughts. Thanks again for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. Hare Krishna, Dr. Prabhu. Thank you for so many references and quotes. As you were speaking, you reminded me how one devotee once asked Srila Prabhupada, will you leave this body? Srila Prabhupada said that I'll go to the hellish planets to reach. So when we read, and we will read, the descriptions of hellish planets, certainly we will not have much desire to go there for any reason or any, but Srila Prabhupada's compassion was so great. He never even considered his personal suffering. As he was in his last stages, all those Kavirajas who were treating him, especially this last one that was very, very erudite and Brahminical, he was saying that I've seen these conditions. People are taking morphine, people are, bones and skin that's like a complete anxiety, and nerves are always stimulated with pain, so people are usually just crying and shouting, just in pain basically all the time. And Srila Prabhupada, despite of the condition, was always asking devotees how are they doing, and if everything is all right, if they have enough prasadam, or you're sick, how you treating this. He was always concerned about everyone around him, despite his condition, physical condition. So that compassion is we cannot imitate such level of compassion. So such great souls, like Narada Muni and Srila Prabhupada, they're ready to travel anywhere. Earthly planets, heavenly planets, they're not distracted by anything because they're pure devotees. What they are distracted with, and what they are feeling, an anxiety that people are wasting their time anywhere, on any planet, and they're trying to elevate their consciousness. That's how great and merciful they are. towards us. So we just have to grab that opportunity that only, just at least try to understand that through that austerity and suffering that such great souls underwent, just to give us this knowledge and opportunity to go back to Godhead. We don't have to, artificially get this aspiration to, yes, I'm ready to save the whole world. We're not the saviors, we're not anything. But eventually, by the mercy of Krishna, we may also develop a compassion to such level that we'll be ready to go anywhere to serve, right? But, it's difficult. So I remember we once asked, Guru Maharaj how we can serve, and we've been directed to Ukraine and to the area where it's really bad air. Like you cannot breathe there. You feel a metal. It's not just bad air like from the cars fumes, but there's like different factories that are polluting the air. And then there's these piles of garbage which are constantly burning, and it's just a horrible place. But devotees were so sweet there. But to live there constantly, the people getting cancer in the age of 50, like left and right, even devotees, non-devotees, everybody. It's really bad place. The water. I remember the first time I took a shower there, I felt that instead of purifying effect, I felt that I contaminated myself with something. And I put my gamcha to dry, and the gamcha became like, like if you put it, if there's an ice and it becomes solid rock, hard. So the gamcha was like this because the water harshness was so bad. So you cannot cook on this water. It's poisonous basically. And so so preaching in such conditions was ecstatic, but for the body it was such an intense. If I would be asked again to go there and serve with my wife, we would consider probably pleading to Guru Maharaj not to send us there, because I'm not sure if we're able to, if our bodies will able to withstand. You'll be weighing your level of compassion and ability to execute the order of spiritual master and your physical capacity to do so. So it's not a joke, and I'm talking just still planet, that there are hellish places and heavenly places also here, and it's not easy, it's not easy. So yes, Srila Prabhupada, he has accomplished something unprecedented by coming to the United States and piercing all those tamagunas and rajagunas with his transcendental Vishuddha Shabda Brahman, transcendental sound vibration that came from his mouth. So yeah, just being grateful, Prabhupada, and by being grateful, what's very important is to constantly be exposed to reading Srila Prabhupada books. Because if we somehow examine why devotees leave movement, especially in the first 10 years, main reason is actually they don't read Prabhupada books. That's why all the other things happen, whatever they are, either apparatus or either, just a loss of enthusiasm because of, you cannot just go enthusiasm that Lord Chaitanya gives you in the first 5 years or so. So unless we do that very seriously, even if it's, and of course, if we cannot read a lot, then we have to hear a lot. Somebody reading, so we have to hear a lot of classes. And if our lifestyle with children work just doesn't allow us to read a lot, then we have to hear a lot. As we go to the work with earplugs and just hearing katha, just in this form, but better read. I mean, better both. But reading is very important. So thank you very much for this opportunity to read Srila Prabhupada's translations and purports, and it's very purifying. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and especially in such a elevated company. So thank you, Tarik Prabhu, Ashdev Prabhu, Agar Krishna. James just left, so Rameshwari also just left. And we're going to open the DTs now. Hare Krishna, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Prabhupada.